Hi, good morning. Today is November 14th, 2019. We're beginning our work session. If we could stand for the pledge.
Catherine, would you like to lead us? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So just a couple announcements before we start the work session. Of course, I put a lifesaver in. The town's bow hunting program was commenced at EPCAL and town-owned property on Sound Avenue and Middle Road. Bow hunting shall run until Sunday, December 22nd. At EPCAL, members of the public are advised to stay on the walking path at all times, and also including your pets, so please be conscious if you let your pets roam off the path. Please do not enter the woods where active deer hunting is taking place. And then January 3rd, just also as a little aside, we'll begin shotgun season hunting there, when at that point the trail will be closed until the end of the month in January. And then please join us tonight at 6:30 in the Senior Center located at 60 Shade Tree Lane in Aquabog for a public forum on the design of our downtown. This will be an opportunity for residents to take a direct role in deciding the future development of our downtown and what it should look like. You will be speaking with planners and architects who will be creating a new pattern book for downtown Riverhead, and I encourage all residents to attend and have their voices heard. I mean, this is a perfect opportunity. We've seen for years, every time a building's going up downtown, the comments online, on Facebook, on articles in the local paper, people are concerned about what's going up in there, what it looks like. So this is your opportunity to get out there and be able to have a voice in what's going to be built in the future. So I really urge all residents to come and be there at 6:30 at the Senior Center. If you're a few minutes late, it's fine. There's breakout sessions. So as once again, I urge you to attend.
I'm gonna jump in on that a minute to talk about the pattern book. I'm very excited to have Urban Design Associates with us this week, and they have met with numerous groups. What we are trying to do is bring all the voices together in town and reach some kind of consensus. So with that said, it is surprising to me that people continue to attack this process and are critical of it, especially since on August 20th, it was voted in and it's already here. So when I have people pushing back to such an extent, it makes me think that those voices don't want to hear from the rest of the residents. And this is very important that we hear from the entire community. The downtown belongs to everybody. Certainly, this isn't any kind of pushback to the business people. This is bringing all of us together. I just want to talk, I tried to be very inclusive of everyone that met with them, and they're going to try to reach consensus. So we've had all the department heads in Riverhead, the Chamber of Commerce, the IDA, all of the committees in town, the Downtown Revitalization Committee obviously brought it to us, the Business Advisory, Recreation. So tonight there will be an opportunity for residents, and this will run obviously after that, but I hope that there will be other opportunities for residents, and I hope that people will attend and weigh in, because I sort of am concerned that a few vocal people are trying to silence the community, and I feel it's so important for the people in town who are residents here to have a say. In fact, someone actually made a comment yesterday that it was simply an idea tree. Well, an idea tree is an exercise in brainstorming. It's when you bring a lot of people together and come up with ideas and then reach consensus and move forward with something. So I actually see an idea tree as a positive thing. So I do thank James and Laura for supporting us on this. I don't know if you want to chime in about it.
No, I think it's a good thing. When you have such diverse feelings about a particular area, it's the best thing to do is sit down, let's find out how we can meet and find some common ground and create something that everybody can live with, and it just makes all the sense in the world, I think.
And that's exactly what it is. You know, someone had made the comment that the company had been directed in a certain way, absolutely not.
No, I sat on the original meetings with them, no, they're very,
They're very
this is,
open-minded.
it's not their first rodeo, they know what they're doing.
But when I was, first retired, before I considered coming into government, I started to get concerned about some of the things that were happening in town. I was concerned about the direction we were taking downtown, and I felt as though perhaps the developers were driving how our downtown looked, and that we weren't having a say in it. And so this is an opportunity for everyone to have a say. Even if you can't attend tonight, there'll be other meetings, and there's going to be a survey. So, I really hope to hear from everybody.
And I just wanna reiterate, cause there's also been talk that, well, this is just another study. This isn't just another study, this is taking all of the information that we've gathered from the studies in the past that have come and have sat on shelves. I mean, the BOA study was done in 2016, and it was kind of, well, it's a nice study, and then nothing was really implemented from that. This is taking all of that information, synthesizing it, and coming out with a code that's able to be useful. It's to be able to decide what sort of businesses should be on the first floor, how the market is in downtowns, what kind of space is needed, how to create the walkability and the character of a downtown. And it also really gives a forward step to developing downtown, because we have a lot of buildings down there that are not being used. We've had tons of developers that have come in, once we had the opportunity zone, and many of them come in and they get nervous because they wanna know, what does the town want to build? What is the whole build out of the town gonna look like, so they know what they're investing in. So this is investing in our community, as Jim, I think you said, this is an investment in our community to move forward and to work with developers in the future to be able to be progressive in what we're doing. As Catherine was saying, many times we've been reactive, when people come in to develop here. This is really, the town taking an active part in marketing ourselves to get developers in here who wanna invest in our community. And then when developers come in, they can move very quickly to move their project forward, because they already know what the town's consensus is to what they wanna have build there. A developer can choose to build here or not build here, that's up to them. But there is consensus in the town as to how it should be, how they would like it to be developed, so that somebody can rest assured when they come in that they're going to be able to do that, and they're going to have buy-in from the community. So that is why it's so important to have this tool here, to help continue with the revitalization that is already taking place downtown.
People have mocked the process and called it a coloring book. Well, all you have to do is Google.
Not people, I have.
Yeah, but all you have to do
Yes.
is Google, the company, Urban Design Associates, and look at what they do. I mean, I've done that a couple times. I've looked through and I've looked at what they've done in other cities. I think they were in Norfolk, Virginia, and, they've been all over the world. So if you question what it is, go on your computer and look at it and look at the process. I feel like there's just, in Riverhead for a long time, I've lived here all my life, and I've been involved, and I don't think I'm not saying it's a party thing, it's not, but we've had a handful of people in town that have had a lot of power, and maybe they're feeling threatened for the residents to speak up, so,
Well, yeah,
let's bring us all
I
together.
agree, 'cause, I mean, I have my feelings of what I like on Main Street, and
Right.
it differs from
Right.
probably
Mhm.
yours, but I think it's more than just a coloring book, because short of having a village government that really deals with that issue, we're trying to deal with it as a town, and the village has its own set of needs and wants, and that are separate from the town. So this gives it that distinctness to deal with that issue, so I think it's a good thing.
We certainly didn't need to spend $174,000 to bring people together to discuss what they wanna do downtown. There's no reason we couldn't had people come in and talk and give their ideas and their thoughts. To spend $174,000 for a coloring book, yes, I think that is a little bit much, and I'm still against it. And I resent the fact that you say that the people that are against it don't wanna hear, they're trying to quiet the people of the town of Riverhead. Nothing could be more untrue, Catherine, and that's a poor statement on your part with no fact or facts whatsoever. So unfortunately, you guys are still trying to sell it. I don't know why, it's been voted on, it's been passed, and it's here, so If it's that good, you shouldn't still have to sell it.
Well, it's not a matter of selling it, it's a matter of getting the information out there about the meeting tonight. I know that you disagree with the pattern book, though I haven't seen anything that you've brought forward to address this issue in any other way, and that's been the
As
problem.
with you.
No, I agree with the pattern book.
Good, good.
You know, we did try and
Glad you
bring
do.
forward in the beginning of the year to discuss, zoning downtown, and that became very contentious, and once again, it fell flat and nothing was done. So, and that, you were involved in that, we had architects, we had landmarks, we had everybody here, we talked about the zoning in downtown, and nobody could come to consensus, so what happened? It just, nothing happened.
People came
And
to a
let me-
consensus.
Can I finish for
Nah,
1 second?
I'm not sure I wanna let you finish.
Can I finish it for 1 second? And so we came to no consensus, so we ended up right back where we were with square one, with no development going on downtown. So then, there were other people that came in with input, and the suggestion was a pattern book. And yes, the board did vote on it, and it did pass, and I'm very happy that it did pass. I'm sorry that you don't agree with it, and you know, where you're saying, you're continuing to argue about it also, instead of embracing it to move forward with the town.
I didn't bring it up, you did, I'm not trying
No,
to
I
sell
brought
it,
it
you
up.
are.
No,
I'm
I'm
talking,
not.
excuse me, I'm talking now,
Sorry,
okay?
Tim.
All right. Now, when you, Laura, you mentioned about the downtown and putting people together, and they couldn't still come to any kind of conclusion. They couldn't, because the complaints from downtown is with the meetings that were being held, that you were controlling those meetings, and you would not allow people to have their thoughts heard. So, an exact opposite for what you're saying about me, or anybody who's against this, not wanting to hear from the community, this is exactly what happened with your downtown meetings. This is exactly what the complaints are from the community.
Okay, I just wanna say one thing. Since when is a public meeting at a public forum, when the community gets to talk about something at a public meeting, that being shut down? This is where I find your statement so disingenuous. Because a public meeting where people get to talk and have their voice heard is exactly what should be happening in government. Not people throwing shade that, oh, somebody talked to this one and somebody talked to that one. A public meeting is where these things should take place. As we did with the pattern book, people came to talk about it at a public meeting, it was supported, and it was supported by the board. So I think it's a little bit, you know, you're still trying to put down the pattern book. All we're sitting here saying is, the meeting is tonight at 6:30, we're encouraging the public to come. So I don't know where all of this other information's coming in, but that's what we're asking the public.
It's coming from the
Come have your
community.
voice heard at the meeting.
Well, I'd like to move on from here, but I just wanna say that Jim supports it, I support it, we have different ideas for what we want downtown. And that's okay, because that's what this is about. This is about hearing all of those different voices and then reaching consensus. So I went home last night and I thought to myself, why are people still pushing back when it's already here and it's happening? And then I started to get concerned that people are pushing back because they wanna silence the community. So that's my only concern, so I ask people to come out, but we don't all have to agree on everything,
Right.
but at some point, hopefully we can reach some sort of consensus and then move forward. And, I do wanna work, I wanna hear what you have to say about downtown, Tim. Love to have you come, I know you met with them and
I've already met with
talked,
them.
and you talked a long time, so what you say matters, what we all have to say
Absolutely.
matters.
I
And
100% agree with that.
So
100%
let's,
agree with that.
Jim wanted to say
Well,
something.
I just wanna conclude that, you know, the pattern book
Conclude
shouldn't be
this.
divisive. I think
Right.
the pattern book, we can look at it whether it's a waste of time or not, but, I mean, I can tell you, and even Rivet Local, Denise could tell you that visioning for downtown Main Street is nothing new. We've had many visions, we did it even 6 years ago with Christine Kempner, we had visioning. Doing this is from outside town hall, from outside specific people that might have something vested, to have a fresh set of eyes come in and do it is a good thing. If we were paying for this with taxpayers' dollars, I might have a different feeling about that. But this was paid for through a community fund that was created.
Which are taxpayer dollars.
Well, it's not, well,
It
it's
is,
not.
it was given to the town
For
the solar.
specific reasons.
That's
We-
taxpayer
as
money, Jim.
As a town board, we voted 5-0 for this community fund and how it should be spent. So, that's what it's being used for, and I can't think of a better thing to spend community benefit fund than on something that's gonna benefit the community. So, I agree with some of the things you say, Tim, about the cost, but I think the cost for what we're gonna get out of it, the deliverables are well worth that. If you look at what it costs to get zoning and drafts done. So I think in the end, it's gonna be a good thing.
Well, I think in the end here, today, we can all agree that each of our voices matter. And for me, that's what it's about. I think this is an outside company, because there was so much pushback within, some people wanted to see this downtown, others wanted to see something different. That's why the, Downtown Revitalization Committee recommended this process. I think it's actually a good investment in bringing us all together, and then once we get something that we can agree on, let's really move forward on it, and let's get the downtown going. So I do appreciate all the different points of view, but I do wanna hear from everybody.
And just the history of downtowns that have revitalized, many of them have done, the successful downtowns that have been able to revitalize have relied on this kind of process, to get things moving forward. So I'm hoping that the outcome of this will be the same, to create a more vibrant downtown.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, the chief is unable to be here, so we will not be having the monthly, public safety
Oh,
report. I know it's,
He sent it to us, so
It's-
we have it.
That's the
Yeah,
only
he
reason
said-
I'm here is to hear that.
he sent it to us, but, we'll have him present it next week.
Laura, I just wanna mention that Councilwoman Giglio is not here today because she's at the IDA, I don't know, what do we call it, a seminar, or?
Some kinda all-day forum.
It's an
Yeah.
all-day
So
forum
hopefully
up
she'll
in,
bring us
I
some
think
good
it's in
information
Nassau
back.
County at Woodbury, so she just wanted to mention that that's where she is at.
Okay, very good. All right, so we can move on to resolutions.
What about the hunting safety thing, no? Done with that too?
I think it was just the reminder here.
Oh,
There is,
oh.
yeah.
Good, all right, my goodness gracious.
First is adopt a local law amending chapter 251 entitled Landmarks and Historic Districts of the Riverhead Town Code, Article 1, General Provisions. Two is adopts a local law amending chapter 105 entitled Boards, Commissions, and Councils of Riverhead Town Code, Article 9, Landmarks Preservation Commission. 3 is adopts a local law amending chapter 209 entitled Architectural Review of the Riverhead Town Code, Article 1, General Provisions.
Now, these have all been met with and agreed upon with landmarks and architectural review, right? These were the series of meetings they had?
I've met with them, and the town attorney has met with them, we've had the public hearing on that, they've spoke at the public hearing.
Right.
They've made they voiced their thoughts, and now it will be coming up for a vote.
Okay.
Did you want anything? Okay?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
that's fine.
5
I
is
just wanted to make sure they were aware of what the final resolutions were.
5 is authorizes the town clerk to publish and post notice to bidders for food and meat products. 6 is authorizes town clerk to publish and post notice to bidders for chemicals for sewer district. 7 is extends bid for potassium permanganate, free-flowing 50-pound containers.
55 pounds.
Oh, sorry, 55-pound containers.
55
That extra
pounds.
5 pounds is gonna make the difference. 8 is extends bids for sodium hydroxide, 20, what is that? Yeah, 25% solution and sodium bicarbonate, 50-pound bags.
Oh, I need that.
9 is awards bid for street lighting and traffic signal maintenance repair parts. 10 is awards bids for renewal of household hazardous waste.
It's after the bicarbonate.
31 is award bid for one new, Vermeer BC 1200 XL, it's towable? Towable, sorry, what did I say? Gas brush chipper or equal.
I don't think it's
21 is amends the, 2020 preliminary budget. This was your budget amendment, Tim?
Yep.
Bob, if you could just come up, I just wanted to ask you a question on this.
Did you just?
We heard
grunt?
that, we
What
heard
did you grunt for?
Somebody
we
needs
need to get you one of those
exercise their
chairs.
hip. Or is it the other one? I just have a question on this. I know that I had spoken to you about this. You have a paralegal in your office, that was doing the 255s, and when I had said about, code enforcement, and could that personnel be used, part-time to help out with code enforcement, and you had said, and Supreme Court actions, you had said yes.
I think it's possible, yes.
Okay, because we have in this budget now to add a second person on top of that for a part-time, a personal, attorney at $30,000. So I'm just asking you, do you think that this year that you could, because it's coming out of capital budget, that your office could handle that, and if not, then you guys can address it somewhere else along
Well,
the line?
actually,
Well,
I
it all
addressed
comes
this
down to a question of what it is that the board's gonna wanna do. If you're gonna wanna focus on Supreme Court actions, you're gonna wanna focus on that, then we need the additional person who will solely do the, Supreme Court prep and assist the attorney in getting that done. And again, I'm going back to the days when, you know, my predecessor was in that office, and he had a staff person solely devoted to his attention, who did nothing but prep the cases for Supreme Court actions, as well as, sending out 30 notices and doing all the criminal notices as follow-up. So that person was assigned 2 tasks: criminal, Justice Court, follow-up, and Supreme Court follow-up. And if that's the desire of the board, from a policy decision, to take this on heads on with force,
But
then it would be necessary to have a separate person.
Okay, but you have said, and you said at the meeting the other day, that you feel with code enforcement and addressing the overcrowded housing, because I think this is what the concern is here, that you guys felt that you were being very successful with the code enforcement staff that you have going in, and being able to rectify a lot of these issues,
Yeah.
without necessarily taking them all to Supreme Court. And this past year, you have been very successful with doing that, with the additional Spanish-speaking code enforcement officers.
Again, I'm deferring to the town board a little bit, again, from a policy situation, because if the desire is to go to Supreme Court, then the answer is yes, an additional person would be beneficial and helpful. It all comes down to policy issue. I'm really kind of throwing this back at you guys, because, if that's the desire, then the best way to do it would be to have somebody who is essentially a litigation assistant who can set it up for that.
So
We have beefed up our Justice Court, filings. The numbers have gone up greatly. I know that not only from the reports that we have from Rich as far as, IPS, but also from the standpoint of, you know, the, amount of tickets that we're issuing, and, the amount of, instances where we're using an outside agency to serve, companies in Albany. My account that I use for that gets depleted at a much higher rate, because we're, you know, bringing those cases in and we need to file them. So, while we could probably manage without it, if the desire is to do, enforced Supreme Court proceedings, then I would definitely take the person.
But
Well,
when we say Supreme Court proceedings, oh, go ahead, Tim, you finish.
My understanding is that the majority of the cases do not go to Supreme Court, correct? And there's a reason for that, because if you get compliance at the local level, is there a reason to then go to Supreme Court? I would say probably not, if you're getting compliance.
If we're getting compliance, then the answer is no. You
Right.
don't need to go to Supreme Court, or at least that's my feeling. Again, you know, maybe there's some who feel differently, but if we're getting compliance, if we're getting them to come in,
Well,
file
that's
their
the whole
building
idea.
permits, and address it through notice of complaints or from Justice Court violations, then
Well,
why take the additional step and bring the Supreme
You're-
Court proceeding?
you're throwing it at us, so I'm gonna throw it back at you for a
Yep.
second. In terms of the whole picture,
Yep.
town code violations going to town court versus going to Supreme Court.
Right.
Do you feel there's gonna be a big influx in Supreme Court, or should be a big influx in Supreme Court cases? Cause if you don't, I'm fine with not going with the paralegal. My understanding is that if we were gonna be processing more Supreme Court cases, we really needed somebody dedicated to do that, just like you mentioned years ago how you had it.
Right.
So that's where the answer to this is.
Right.
If we're gonna be going with a lot more Supreme Court cases, then we need the paralegal. If we're not, and you feel you can handle it with what you have, or we're still gonna go to Supreme Court on some cases, but you can still handle it there with your personnel, then so be it,
Okay.
okay? So
Why
I'm
couldn't-
not,
Why couldn't we just split the baby? I mean, as far as, I think we should, I like the new direction. I think with Laura's workload diminished a little bit with the 255s, she may be able to handle that. If it gets to the point where it goes successful, or goes probably more than we anticipate, we still have that money earmarked.
why
So
don't
if we need to
why
get-
don't we go 6 months or so and see how it goes,
Right.
and see whether we need it or we
Whether
don't need
it or
it,
not.
and
But I probably
and
would
then
take the money out, but I would
reevaluate,
just leave
and
it
save
here
the
just in case.
30,000 for now then, I'm
So,
fine
but
with
do you
that.
wanna leave
I
it,
agree.
do you wanna leave it in capital projects reserve then, and then you can remove it from capital projects reserve? Okay,
That's fine
so,
with me.
Yeah.
alright, so we'll put it back into capital projects reserve, and we'll remove that, we'll amend that as,
Okay.
I mean, I'm okay with that, and then what we can do is come back the first quarter or so
Right,
and
if
see how
it's-
things are going
right.
and come back to you.
Because I think local justice court and people just need to be noticed.
Yeah, not every
that they're
case
being
is gonna
noticed,
go to
and
Supreme
You'll
Court.
get a lot of compliance locally, I think.
There are other things we're gonna need to do as well, but obviously I don't wanna discuss those publicly, those will be,
Mm-hmm.
things that we're gonna have to work on, alright?
Well,
Something
I
about how to
just-
get out of that chair without grunting is probably one of them.
Yeah.
I just wanted to chime in a minute. Certainly, I'm glad that we were able to agree on this. I wanna be much harder on landlords. I think sometimes, they're willing to take a fine, that I still hoping we can come back with, a resolution and up the fines for them. And, and I think, Tim's wants to beef up the code enforcement department, and certainly I'm thinking about that a lot. But it made me worry to deplete our capital fund balance, so I'm glad if we can at least see if this works for now and not remove money from the capital fund balance. And also at some point, I definitely wanna talk with everybody about adding a personnel in the planning department, because we have less people in our planning department than any other town around, so.
so maybe I can just ask you, cause I wasn't at the last meeting, unfortunately, when you voted on the increased fines. I know, Tim, you had said something about that if we had enacted that code, that we would've had it gone up to the state with that.
Right.
Could you explain that?
Under New York State executive law, the state in 1984 adopted various rules statewide, which are implemented and applicable to municipalities.
For the building code or for everything?
For codes,
Codes.
state codes. And there's, I think it's, 382, the executive law, I don't remember the section off the top of my head.
I think it is
I could
too.
definitely supply you with the information from the New York State Codes Division. If you seek to adopt codification that is different than or more stringent than the state code, you need to seek relief from the State Codes Division in order to implement it.
Right, but home rule exists and stays in place until you send it up, right? So you can change it locally, cause our rules right now are more stringent than state code, right? Cause minimum state code.
I mean, I don't wanna get
But
into
I'm
what our
just-
current
but-
code
but I'm
says,
just-
but I
I'm
mean,
just gonna
the
say
bottom
if-
line is
if-
it's gotta be changed.
If our code was out of compliance, it's been out of compliance for 10 years.
Well,
Because if our code is out of compliance, so I just wanna be clear on this, then it's been out of compliance for 10 years. So the code to increase the fines was not triggering any of that, it was just increasing the fines and accepting the New
Well,
York
we
State
were-
codes as the.
we were doing a
lem-
lot more than that.
No, we were this is what I wanna know. So we were exerting home rule to.
Right.
And we were saying that we were accepting the New York State codes and as the minimum standard.
Correct.
And then we kept the codes that we had in place, that had always been in place there. That did not change.
That's partially correct, go ahead.
Okay, so and then let's just say, even if you do accept that, right?
Right.
So then, if you do change something and become more stringent, home rule stays in place, you send it up for approval, but home rule remains in place unless they challenge it, is that correct?
Who challenged?
If you're sending it and you say you need state approval for it, well, who would you need to approve?
We would be adopting a code that is more stringent than the state code.
And Tim was saying
And
that.
if we were looking to
Good.
enforce that in court, again, I would think that someone would have raised the objection, this was not cleared through the State Codes Division, and they would look to get it dismissed.
Nor it hasn't been cleared for 10 years, what was in there.
I don't wanna go backwards.
Okay.
I don't wanna go
All right,
backwards.
but I just wanna be
from a
clear, I
process
wanna be,
standpoint.
I wanna be clear on that, I wanna be
It
clear on that, correct?
I don't think the municipal home rule, the question is, does municipal home rule trump the executive law, and
No, I don't,
believe it
that's not what
does.
I'm asking, that's
Okay.
not what I'm
Kinda like
asking.
what you were saying, if you put it in place now, can we use it in place until it gets approved by the state?
Correct, and I
That
believe that's
kinda
part of
sounds like what
and
you
I
were
believe that
asking.
that's part of that executive law, that if you adopt something here, right, and you're saying that if it gets challenged, you can send it up to the state.
It has to be sent to the state.
Right, and so it has to
It
be,
has to go to
but what we implement stays in place unless it's challenged, correct? We have home rule unless it's challenged, correct?
It would be effective upon the filing with the Department of State.
Correct.
Whether it's valid or not is a question.
Yeah, that's
But
what
it wouldn't be
I'm saying.
changing the validity of anything that we already have in the code, because we didn't change anything in the code.
Well, no, we were changing things, you were calling for the ability to revoke someone's CO, which is a significant property interest,
That's what you.
so.
So
I mean,
if
I
you
think-
delete-
That's
needed to
what
see
Supreme Court
if-
action enables you
if
to
you-
do,
if-
correct?
Well, no, Supreme Court action allows you to get injunctive relief. It allows you to tell somebody to stop using a piece of property in a certain way or stop doing things that are contrary to the law.
I thought I was told
When I have a
that-
certificate of occupancy issued to me,
It's golden.
or some property protected interest, I don't think that a town can say, you no longer have it, we're revoking it. That's a question.
So other than that.
I think you have to have a procedure, and that would certainly
Right.
be a much more stringent action, and it's not.
So if you
And my
struck the
understanding is
CO,
that's not something that's permitted under the state building code.
I
So-
thought if we go to Supreme Court, then we're able to take away the CO, is what I've been told.
We can, if someone's using a property unlawfully, contrary to their CO, I mean,
Right,
we
well,
can
that
stop
would be,
them, but we don't
overcrowded
have a
housing
right to
would
take
be-
away their CO.
so the only issue
I'm
with the
not sure I
code, the
understand
only
the
issue
question.
with the code that you were not comfortable with was the removal of the CO. Other than that, everything would stand?
There were other issues, again, I don't, I mean, if you
Well,
wanna
it
talk
just,
about this in
it
executive
sounded,
session.
but the only thing is, it sounded like that we couldn't enact that resolution unless it sat up in the state for a while and got approval. That's what it sounded like was being said. And I'm asking you, if we had passed that code, would it have been able to be implemented until it was challenged at some point? And I know that we would have to send it to the state also,
It would
but,
have to go to
but,
state.
but it would become enacted.
It's effective on adoption.
Okay, cause that
Okay.
is not the way it sounded like what you said, and is that the way you understood it?
I'm not sure I said anything
And I
more
think
than it
it's-
had to be referred to the state, that's
The
all
only
I
thing it sounds
said.
like to me is that
Well-
it needs to go back to the drawing board and
But-
work.
Correct.
But I'm just
correct.
saying, but
It sounds like to me.
did it sound to you like it could be enacted if it was passed?
It didn't sound like that to me.
So that's what I'm saying, and that's where the confusion was coming in, because I think people voted on the fact that they thought it could not be enacted locally.
Right,
if
it
it was
sounded
passed.
like, it was gonna be held up for a year, is the way it came off to me.
Well, it certainly could be.
And so this is
No,
a very
but
important
it gets
point,
enacted
if
right
we
away.
enact it, will we be able to use it in
The law's
while?
No, but I'm-
effective, the law's effective upon adoption,
Whether it's
subject.
valid or not, it's still.
Right.
Well, I mean,
And
it can be
that's-
challenged, I mean, anyone can challenge it and say that it's an unlawful
Yeah, but why set
enactment
us
by,
up for
by,
that?
by the town.
Can any
Right.
law,
That's why
any
this-
law, any code, at any time, be challenged?
That's always the case.
I mean,
Right.
you
The
can
answer-
always
sure,
challenge, yeah,
sure.
so,
For
you can always
vagueness-
challenge.
For vagueness, for being contrary to the law, but in this instance, there was some clear things that were contrary to the state code,
Right.
clear
But-
things.
State
I don't
code
know.
has survived the test of challenge. State code is not gonna give you a situation where you're gonna have to go back and get cases removed because you were prosecuting illegally.
Well,
I'm
you-
not looking to vote on something that's
You
not
don't-
gonna be proper.
Right.
If we go with state code, increasing the fines, I'm absolutely 100% behind. Going with state code with that is where I'm at, that's what I would like to do, I'm not looking to implement something, and if we have something now that needs to go to the state, let's get it to the state, let's get it
Right,
squared
doesn't
away.
go,
Start
it doesn't
time.
go to the state for suggestions, it goes to the state once you adopt it.
Correct.
And then the state can come back and say, we
Correct.
don't agree with
But
it.
you don't wanna knowingly adopt something
Right,
that is
that's what I'm
contrary
saying.
to.
Well, we don't know it's completely
But we know
contrary.
that, but we know the state one is not
I don't think we're
contrary.
getting the clear answers here, I think we need to talk about this again,
Well-
because there seems to be, I'm not clear on
I
what the
think-
answer is, I think we need to
You're
look
right.
into it more, and let's talk about it, maybe at the
In
meeting, but I wanna see.
executive session,
I really
we need
think
to,
that this
because
should
we
be
don't wanna play
a
our.
legal issue and discussed in executive session, because there's legal questions here. I'm
Right.
sure you probably looked at this, perhaps, there's been other advice offered. My office, obviously, if there has been contrary evidence or opinions offered, I would like to sit down with everybody, make sure we're on the same page. I know that oftentimes people come in and talk to this person, and get a little bit different, depends on how the question's phrased.
Well, that's why I think we need clear, direct
I mean,
answers from you.
The answer,
Okay, I have it.
well, and that's why I said I'd like to have everyone in my office on the same page and we'll discuss it first. Instead of picking on foreign shopping and picking on which attorney we're speaking to. I don't know what's happened, I can just tell you that if you're doing something that's different than, more stringent than the state code, it needs to go to the state code for review, and you have.
Only after it's passed, correct?
After it's passed, and you have to justify why you're doing it. There has to be a justification given.
Correct.
I think we can do that,
So
let's
we can
get-
put it on for next Thursday, and we could do it in exec, if you could take a
Okay.
look at what's there, and you can
Alright.
raise your concerns.
Okay.
So let's get the clear answers
Get
on
your office
that,
in
and
order.
certainly, I'm interested in going to Supreme Court when people are non-compliant.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I think I feel like we're all in agreement on that.
Thanks,
What
Bob.
would you
Thank
think?
you.
No,
Okay,
I want
next
the money
we
here.
have Community Development Fund, fund budget, adjustment. Next is Water District budget transfer. 15 is, 2001 Ostrander Avenue sewer extension, capital improvement project, number 81903, budget adoption. 16 is authorizes, Larry Levy, doing business as On-Site Productions, non-pro-tunc, to provide additional, cablecast production services regarding the creation of an advisory graphic regarding the EPCAL deer hunting season.
We
And
pay him
contractual
for
pay-
this? Larry, really? This is the first I'm hearing of this.
advisory
There's,
graphic.
I'm gonna say there's not been, there's maybe been one board meeting, there's not a Larry
I know.
resolution on.
We should
um,
just put him on staff
yeah.
and start this.
17 is authorizes shotgun hunting for deer on town property at Enterprise Park at Calverton, Suffolk County Tax Map 600-135-1-7, .33, and 1751 Sound Avenue, Calverton, Suffolk County Tax Map 660-1-2 from January 5th, 2020 to January 31st, 2020, sunrise to sunset. Bob, can we just take a look at that? For sunrise to sunset, does that permit people to go on the trail other than sunrise and sunset? I just wanna make sure the trail is closed
24 hours.
24 hours, we did that last year, I believe, can we just look what we did last year?
We also have, Dan is coming to exec about a different hunting issue that he needs to talk to you, and give you legal advice, you might be able to.
Okay, I just wanna be clear, cause I know there was a lot of mix-up last year, I just wanna follow what we did last year. For shotgun season, I thought we closed down the EPCAL trail as part of the resolution
We did.
during.
We did.
But I'm just wondering if this is if you're only allowing hunting sunrise to sunset, does it allow the trail to be open
At night?
outside of that? At sunset, sunset's early, people are still going out, they'll go for a jog at dark.
Not me in those words.
I mean, but if you're training for something, it's a nice path that's not on the road, and,
Well,
you know, if
that's
you're training for a marathon or something, that's what you
That's
do.
another thing.
That you don't wanna do.
No, I think all our events should be up there.
I defer to Dan, but I mean, you can't shoot prior to the sun coming up, you can't shoot when the sun goes down.
I just wanna make sure that the trail is closed during the whole month.
And I don't think the resolution addresses that, I think that's something that's done by an advisory.
Okay, I just wanna make sure what we're doing.
What I think we did last year.
Okay.
Yep.
That's, okay, whatever we did last year, I'd like to make sure that we have it in place on time this year. Authorize extension of time to remit real property taxes for senior citizens receiving enhanced star pursuant to section, 425 of section 467 of New York State Real Property Tax Law. What this is, if you are a senior citizen, I guess if you're part of the STAR program, instead of having to file your second quarter taxes on May, 31st, you are given an extension, I believe it's till June 8th to pay, so that if you're getting Social Security, it doesn't interfere, with your monthly check to be paid by the 31st.
Please check into that if you're a senior, to make sure that you're getting your star reduction, cause just in campaigning, I noticed talking to people, they're not somewhat aware. And there's, you know, that's a shame.
What age are you considered a senior?
19 is approved settlement of a claim, 20 is authorized attendance at New England Interstate Water Pollution Control Commission training course, 21 is approves the chapter 255 application of Riverhead Rotary Garden Festival, May 3rd through May 11th, 2020, and 22 is assumes lead agency issues, this one, issues determination and terminates easement and release these properties incumbent by the easement made by Wading River Manor Associates. I'm gonna say on this one, I would like to pull this one from here, because I think this goes very much to what we talked about yesterday, when we're asking to make a secret determination on a property where we have not been presented, the information prior to being asked to do a secret ruling on this. And Bob, do you know secra? Well, I'm just kind of curious, cause this is the removal on an easement on property that's being developed. And is it segmenting it if we just look at the easement without looking at the development that's requesting it? Cause this is on 5 properties, and 2 of those properties are to be developed, and should we not be looking at them as a whole and not segmenting it out? Well, I believe it adds extra, I don't know, we haven't seen anything, but I believe it adds extra development space and things like that. It changes, what can be built on the property. So I think, and then you have some of this incompatible growth area in the Pine Barrens, so there's a lot of questions I don't know.
How does the project go forward? I mean, the problem is with the.
You wanna come up, Bob, because,
You know, the existence of the easement, from what I understand, the project is not being reviewed, so.
but why can't, the project certainly can be reviewed with the easements in place.
Again, I wasn't prepared to answer a
I
secret
know.
question, so, to answer your question, I don't see a segmentation question here.
But the planning board is asking us to review the easement because their project obviously is, we don't know, is it developing in the easement? Like what, so how can we look at the easement without the whole project on 5 properties? I mean, I think this is actually 10 properties that this involves.
I think, that- right, this is that.
And
Well, there's 10
traffic?
properties
This is that-
originally, but
this
there's
is
only
Joe
5 that are
Janowski's
not
imaginary
developed.
road that
Correct.
was supposed to be a bypass way back when.
Right.
And I think what this is doing is hindering those that own property, because it's a make-believe road, from creating where the building can be, where the parking can be. I think that's what it is, so I don't think it's
Absolutely.
segmenting, I think it's to
Yeah.
remove the paper road altogether.
And
But-
with the addition of the McDonald's there, this could no longer work.
Well, with the
or would be
Walgreens and
done
all that,
right.
you're right, they
Weren't
sort
they
of like.
built
Done
on
anyway.
But I think
Right.
that's
I
my,
don't understand
that's my point. We all don't know.
Oh, I'm
So I
pretty
think that-
familiar with this stuff.
But
There's been a lot of discussion on it.
Oh, yeah.
Last year, I know that
We
there was
talked
a
about this
presentation in
with
June.
Cardinale, my goodness
And there was
gracious.
things that went on,
And it has never been removed, correct? As many times it has been discussed, it's
As
always
many
been
ti-
upheld?
Yeah, well, you know, it always.
So that-
it hasn't
always
been,
is that way
the
when
town
government's
board has
involved.
chosen not to remove it. The planning board has recommended that it be extinguished.
Well, that's my
The
point.
Wading River Hamlet study that was done in 2011, 2012 also recommended that
I
the
don't,
cross-access easement be eliminated.
I didn't read that in the study, I didn't read it that way.
That's.
I read the study, I didn't read it specifically that way. I know what's quoted there, it's taken out of, a quote, out of
Yeah,
the study itself. The study is
correct.
much larger than that.
Right.
And it's quoted several times in different places
Right,
with reference to that, so that's a pulled-out quote. I think
Right.
it needs to be looked in the full context of the Hamlet study, not as a pulled-out quote to support something that we don't really, haven't sat and reviewed as a town board.
well, the Wading River Hamlet
This is
study was
easier.
reviewed by the town board.
I know, but this quote, to support this unlisted action with a
Right.
negative declaration,
Right.
is a pull-out quote from the Wading River study. I think
Correct.
the Wading River study contains more quotes than just this about that area.
Okay, but.
That's what
but
I'm saying, it's a pull-out quote.
It's a quote that set forth their recommendations. There was
I
a
don't-
recommendation from BFJ that there be further text modifications to eliminate this. Now, the other references to
was-
it do not indicate that it should stay in.
And was it any zoning change to eliminate it after the study was done?
There was no text modifications to the CR zoning,
Correct, that's what I'm saying. So it was,
to my knowledge. I
right,
mean,
so it was
We
not
changed the
followed up.
zoning.
Oh, we did? Okay.
Yeah, we rezoned properties up in
But you
Wayne.
didn't
okay.
rezone the property to remove this easement.
You don't need to rezone the property to remove the easement. The easement is separate and totally separate from the zoning.
Well, this is why I'd like to have a thorough discussion before this comes through. We haven't talked about, you're asking us to rule on secret and to take lead agency. I would like more information and a presentation to this board before we make a determination on this. And my other thing is it segmenting it if you're removing the easement for the whole, development of that area? Does it affect the development of that area? And if you remove this portion from it, are you segmenting SECR by not looking at it in totality and with the traffic studies?
No.
Why would it be segmentation? This action,
Does this,
this actually would not be.
does this action affect what can be built there?
Does it have an impact?
Does it have an impact?
Perhaps, but is.
So then
Does
shouldn't
it
we be looking?
automatically result in other actions happening? No.
But we should be looking at it. If the action we're taking results in another action moving forward, as part of SECR, we need to be aware of what we're doing, how it affects a proposed development, correct?
If anything, this will reduce the ability to people develop their property. to the
Well, we
fullest.
don't know that, Jeff, because we haven't had a group talk about it, and we haven't had a thorough explanation of it.
Well, we've been talking about this since I've been here for 7 years.
And it has not been changed, correct? Every time you talked about it, the easement has remained in place, right?
There's never been a vote by a board on this. And I went back and took a look at the prior minutes, and there's always been two firm, get rid of it. Councilwoman Wooten, Councilman Giglio. Tim had questions about it. Last year, he wanted a right-hand turn lane from 25 onto Waiting where the Manor Road heading south. This easement would not involve anything regarding that. Right now, I've spoken to 3 of the board members. 3 board members have indicated that they wanna get rid of this easement. All
So
this
that is gonna circumvent the town being presented the information to make a decision, Jeff?
That is
Just giving you the
mischaracterization.
information
I have
right
prepared
now.
the EAF part 1, the part 2. A public hearing is not required under SECR.
Do we have part one and part two provided to this board?
Yes, and at the last time I presented to you, and you.
So can you give us all of the information
I-
and present this again at a work session? That's all I'm asking.
That was asked at the town board meeting 3 meetings ago. I said I'd have the information to you by the end of that day. I delivered on my promise. I gave it to the board at the end of that Thursday. You've had it now for 3 weeks. No board members have asked me any questions about it.
I have it right on my desk.
Have you
And-
requested to schedule to meet with the board to review it?
And, all the impacts are low to moderate. I've not heard from any of the board members saying that they had any questions about
Does
it.
any of the board have any objection to having this presented and all the information so we can discuss it at a work session before we move forward with this project?
I'm against that, I'm ready to move forward with it.
I mean, I
We'll
always
have
want,
this.
I want all the
We've had this.
information
I'm very,
before I make a
I'm very
decision.
familiar with the
Got the
whole thing,
information,
so I
yes.
mean, if you have to educate, then go ahead, but I can tell you, I'm very familiar with this, so.
But some of us want more information, so I think it's better.
And
I would like
can
a
you elaborate
discussion.
what information is needed, because
Well, that's what I was gonna ask you.
Well, I would like a legal
summarized
opinion
typically.
whether this is segmentation of secret.
And my question is, how is that segmentation? I mean, I.
segmentation is a legal term under SECR.
And right, and that's
that
why I'm
falls
asking our town attorney to find out if this is
Please let him
a
finish.
segmentation.
Okay. I'll give you a
You
memorandum.
you ask a question and you cut off the
Any-
answer and you
anything
throw
else?
another question. Let him
Because,
answer the
because I was asking the question to Bob, and
Any-
Bob hadn't
anything
finished
else?
answering it, and Jeff jumped in.
Anything
That's
else?
why, Tim.
Anything else?
Laura, it's very difficult to have a conversation when you're like that. Let's hear the answers from the people who we trust to know the answers.
Okay, Jeff, would you like to explain segmentation?
Segmentation is when you evaluate different projects going on at the same time, and you look at them piecemeal fashion. There's, my professional opinion to this board and recommendation to you as the board, and you can listen to me or not, is that there's no segmentation in this process.
Okay, this is 2 projects that would happen. The easement would be removed and buildings would be built on 5 separate parcels on the same piece of property, and you don't think that those should be looked at together?
No, they're two totally separate issues, and I do not believe that this is segmentation under that scenario.
And, okay, and Bob, I'm saying to you that I believe it may be segmentation. I would like a legal opinion as to whether it's segmentation or not.
My question to you is, and Cardinale and I talked about that we should have done this 12 years ago, but as of now, I think there's only one, the animal hospital, I believe, is the only project, right, that's looking to go, and I think that's one's being held up because they're not sure what Paper Road is gonna do to their building.
That's the one that's pending, but there was also
Right, and
Benicia
this
Square.
really isn't an imaginary road, that was part of a much bigger plan that got blown out of the water with Walgreens and McDonald's
Right.
and the funeral home redoing it, and it just, it doesn't work now, it doesn't work in that shape, but I think that's the only project that's not.
No, Venetia
sure.
Square still has an application in.
Yeah, but that's been in forever, it's probably gonna stay in forever, but, that's only to preserve the zoning that we're looking to change, but that's a whole separate issue.
But you cannot deny that an application is in on another second piece of property. You can't ignore it, that application is still,
Yeah, but a
is
paper
that-
road dissecting your
Jim, I'm not disagreeing whether the road should be there or not.
If this is my piece of property which represents this room, and all of a sudden the town decided that maybe down the future, 30, 40 years from now, we might wanna put a bypass road from that picture to that board over there, now I wanna develop my property, I said, well, now I got this imaginary block of 50 feet that
That you bought with, that you bought knowing was there.
Well, I don't know how long, I don't know where
No,
the road went there.
they've,
Well, you
because
don't
it was
know
created
that.
with the subdivision,
These-
so those lots could not have been sold without
These
the.
people owned that property long before that paper
But
road
no,
went in, and I know exactly why Janowski did it, but that's a whole separate issue.
But Jim, that subdivision was created with the easement. Those lots were only sold with the subdivision, so everybody that bought that lot with that easement. They knew that easement was there, so it wasn't imposed after they purchased it. I just wanna be clear on that.
But the plan for that easement is not gonna be there anymore, it's done.
I
That was part of a bigger plan from way back when.
That's why I would just like this presented. I'd like to know if you have to look at these properties in totality. I don't know, I think some of them are also on Pine Barrens property. I think they allow increased development if the easement is removed. Also, this compatible growth area over there with the amount of development expands when you remove the easement.
Denise,
There's still zoning issues.
don't hide. You were part of this back then, correct?
That's kind of an imaginary fact pattern you just offered, Jim, because it wasn't something Joe Chomsky came up with like that. It was a result of a Hamlet study done for Wading River in the 1980s.
Eighties, that's correct.
It wasn't like Joe, there was a committee, a task force, agree with it or not, they were trying to create a main
bypass,
street.
I know.
They were trying to
Right.
create a main
Right.
street there.
Right.
So to get traffic off of 25A, which as you know, is a traffic mess, it's worse today than it was then. That's what that was all about.
Right.
The property owners never liked it, for reasons, I guess, that you're articulating, but that was the objective.
Right,
I don't know.
maybe I didn't mean to mischaracterize, but I knew it
No,
as
you
that.
made it like it was just something Joe came up with.
Oh, no, they
and,
were
like,
thinking
put
of a
it on
bypass, they
something
were
he
thinking
didn't
of
like.
creating, right,
That's
I know
kind of
exactly what they
it's-
were trying to create down there, but it just never
But-
took
Well,
off.
but that wasn't how you were. I have to stand up for my good friend Joe Chomsky.
Oh, he's a good friend of mine too. He hired me.
May he rest in peace. But, the Hamlin study that you're referring to in this resolution, was that the 1980s Hamlin study or
No.
the one from
2012.
2011, 12?
Yeah.
That was my question.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
That's
Thank
okay.
you. I wanted that bit of history put in.
So does the town board, well, we're not five here, so do we wanna pull this till we can talk about it at a work session and get the opinion from Bob back? So we'll remove that from this week.
Can you get the opinion back prior to the town board meeting?
I think so.
Okay.
Is there a rush for
Is,
this?
if there's anything else,
What's
I mean,
the
besides
hurry?
segmentation question.
Yeah.
Maybe in the spirit of cooperation, we can make sure everyone has their answers before, unless, I mean, there's no pressing deadline that I know of.
Well, if you're not comfortable with the answer you get, then I'll agree to table it. But it's just, this has been on and on and on and on, and I hate being part of the process that slows things down, and that's what
Well, I
this
don't
is.
think it's slowing things down, it's getting the facts before you make them, whether this can be, the easement can be removed or not is, I don't think that question's been answered. I think the question is, are we assessing this appropriately with the way it should be under secret to make our determination to move forward? That is my question, it's not whether the easement.
That's been asked and answered.
Well, it hasn't been asked and answered because that's why we're asking Bob to give us a legal opinion. Jeff is not an attorney, he's our planner, and he had said that this is a legal question, and so we're asking our attorney to answer it.
Well, he answered it, you just didn't like it, so now you're.
No, Jeff said,
He did say it was a segmentation, to
and
be
he's,
exact.
and he said it was a legal question. Did you not say it's a legal question for secret?
Segmentation under secra is a legal definition, and if you want a legal opinion, but to say that, I just wanna, this is not rushing it, this is, question that's been asked for 10 years.
At least.
And every time I come
I
to a
know, I
town
just
board.
thought 10 years, another week wouldn't
And-
be
and-
terrible.
But,
Yeah.
and that was what was asked 3 meetings ago, and I gave you the information
Yeah.
3 meetings ago. If anybody had any questions,
And this is one of
I have
those
it
things
if you
like a
need
bad penny. You know, it's come before the town board on numerous occasions, and on numerous occasions, the town board has chosen not to take it up. And in 1980 and 1989, they actually reaffirmed the easement is there. And every time that you've brought it up, the town board has chosen not to bring it up because they are not have an interest to remove the easement. So I just wanna be clear on that, Jeff, also. And it has come up several times where you've been here. I know you are in favor of removing the easement, and you brought it before the town board. The town board has said they do not wanna take it up because they do not wanna remove the easement, and you're bringing it up again now. So I would just like more information to be able to come to a conclusion on whether the seeker is being done appropriately. That
Okay,
is all I'm
well,
saying.
Just to correct the statements that I'm bringing it up again, I am not bringing it up again. We had 3 councilwoman Giglio, said that they want to go forward with removing it. They directed Bob to prepare the resolution to do so. I prepared the seeker analysis to do so. In staff's professional opinion, seeker is concluded in terms of doing an analysis to back up and justify the action that's been requested by 3 town board members. So I did not personally, staff did not put this forward. 3 town board members directed the town attorney's office to prepare the resolution, so I want to correct that for the record.
And in determining the secret, have you come before the town board to review your recommendations, or has it just been that you dropped off paperwork to all the board members?
We had this conversation at the meeting 3 weeks ago to say that my analysis, I presented my analysis to the board at that meeting, the prior board meetings, the 2 prior board members' meetings. The town board never said, no, do not go forward with this, and if you take a look at the notes, it was, we need more information. So we come back 6 months later, a year later, here's the additional information that you asked. So it's never been, no, we don't want it, the direction by the board is, we need more information, and that's been going on for years.
But there's not been a full discussion for this resolution with this board at a work session to move it as an unlisted action with the EAF of everything that you presented.
I presented
sure
this
that's what's
at the
happening
same
right
meeting
now.
3 weeks ago.
It's a work session, this is presented.
Do you have the reports?
I do.
I do.
Okay, do you wanna present
On my
them all
desk.
now?
You all should have it.
Right, but we're not talking it together.
Oh, well, I read what's on my desk.
So do I. But I'm saying this should be discussed not in isolation, it should be discussed as a full board, correct? I mean, this is what our job is.
I'll agree to that.
So, Bob, if you could find
And to
out.
add to what Jeff said, cause this is actually, there was an application made by council on behalf of the property owners in a petition to extinguish, so to reiterate and just as a backdrop to that and also add to, since we're putting everything out there, Mr. Cuddy, on behalf of the property owners, made a petition asking that it be extinguished or abolished. Planning board, earlier this year, took up the matter and made a recommendation, which I believe was shared with the board. So just for purposes of putting it all out there. And their recommendation was that it be abolished.
And then the board is now questioning whether it's a segmented review.
Right.
So we'd like the answer to the segmented review so that we can figure out how to move on
And
forward
that's
from
why I
here to
asked
make
if-
sure that
if
the
there's
process
anything-
is correct.
If there's any other questions, if there's need for, cause I figured if there's gonna be anything else, I'll try to address it in the memo now, so if there's anything other than the segmentation question.
So, I do have one other question. So the plans for this has how many parking spaces?
Which one are you talking about?
For where this easement is being requested? Mr. Cuddy is, on behalf of a client, is asking to have the easement removed?
He's filed a petition on behalf of
All of the property
Bernie
owners.
May,
Who are the
6333 Realty, and he's
So all of those would be all of those would be type 1 actions, correct?
No.
No, Bernie May's not,
How many parking
Bernie May's
spaces on
got
it?
a farm stand.
Not Bernie May, but,
Continuing, and he's
but,
continuing to have a farm
but
stand.
the other ones
He's
would, the other ones have how many parking spaces?
Two.
Benicia Square is asking for how many parking spaces?
Oh, I haven't,
Okay, but so then this one for Mr. Cuddy, how many parking spaces?
it's less than 15. And it does not affect the parking.
No, this won't affect the parking, just positioning.
So Jeff, does this allow the developer to develop more square footage on the property if you remove this easement?
Potentially, yes. In compliance with the zoning. Here's the plan in here.
Is this for
The veterinarian office. That's what I was asking about.
what animal hospital?
Well, that's just petitioning to have the easement removed as part of their site plan.
Animal hospital.
Rick Searles, who was here last year.
Oh, Rick Searles
He was here in
used to be
June
on
of
the
last year. on the
ARB.
staff, yeah.
I don't have the full site plan, I just cut off part of it. So I apologize, I don't have the answer for you in terms of total number of parking spaces.
expect to be a busy animal hospital, I guess, huh?
It is over 50.
So it's a type 1 action.
The site plan, as it's currently proposed, would be a type 1 action.
And we're asking this to be unlisted on the same parcel.
Correct.
Okay. All right, that's all. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Bob.
Oh, are you on to the next one?
We had, I think, is that the end of the resolutions? That's the end of the
Except there's one that Catherine had.
That's it?
Uh-oh.
Yep.
Ah.
So this is also a budget amendment. Do we have copies of this?
Yes, you should.
Okay. Does everybody have?
Yeah, I thought I passed them down. Catherine, did you?
Did I not pass on?
This is taking
She's got them all.
$10,000
I
Yeah,
have
here's
them
another,
all.
okay.
I thought this was one thing. You get it?
Yeah, what is, I need more.
Oh, yeah, look.
Catherine?
10 grand for
Sorry.
more, huh?
Here's Catherine.
Where's, what's this?
Do you have an extra?
It's,
Yes.
I'll make a copy.
Here,
Oh,
no,
yeah,
I have
she's got it.
I have a
Okay.
whole stack.
so this is amends 2020 preliminary budget.
What's the reasoning behind it, Catherine?
Take it.
This is to give training. This is for, professional ed and training.
For who?
Actually, you know who's been asking for it is the water department for their staff. Came in recently and just felt that in order to be able to, one of the difficulties is promoting from within, and being able to train the employees so that we can retain them. So he, had asked the other day if we could do some of it, so this is the thought.
What's your total for your personal services budget line?
That's it. That's it. This was,
That's it
this
entirely.
was for, yeah, this was for, originally we had a part-time staff in there, and then we used it for intern.
Okay.
But, so it's not, and it's not any current staff that is there now.
Okay.
Nor that you anticipate to be there.
Well, it was either gonna be for an intern, or to maybe do some furniture outside.
Oh.
But I think when Frank came in, I think that this is more important, you know, I think the seats, they need to get fixed, but I think they can
They can wait.
Last time we did it, the first time we used some of it we used for the chairs here, then we used to fix some of the wall out there.
Well, these meetings start
So
going like
instead
this, you
we're
better
doing-
put a bed out there, I think.
So instead, we're doing professional development.
All right, so can I have a first and second to go in executive session, matters regarding a request as Article 4 of the CSEA contract, matters regarding a raise for an employee, discussion regarding potential retention of a firm, discussions regarding hunting license agreement, and current litigation in the matter of John Wesley Village LLP against assessors et al.
Oh, good.
Motion?
Yeah, that's all.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So
That's
carried.
all.